Well, afternoon tea. You'd almost think I was British. I'm drinking so much tea right now, but I and the reason I am is because I was drinking a lot of coffee and I found that was really bothering my stomach. And it wasn't like I'm throwing up or anything. It was just my stomach was just tense and in knots. And I thought, let's back off the coffee for a little bit. So it's going with decaffeinated tea. This is green tea, by the way, which is not very green, but that could be because of the way the cup is. Bitterness and anger. I was asked to talk about that. And I'm willing to talk about that because I think I'm uniquely qualified to talk about it. And the reason I think I'm uniquely qualified was there was a time in my life where I carried a lot of bitterness and anger and resentment toward not just one, but primarily one person in my life. And it was a horrible time in my life. Had they done something to harm me? Well, I was bitter and I was angry at them, so I obviously thought they had. That went on for years, and it started. It didn't just affect my emotional state. It didn't just affect my mental well-being. It affected my health. It affected my finances. It affected the people closest to me that were around me. Some of them I pushed away. And it wasn't that I pushed them away. It's that that energy, that negative energy that was within me, that pushed them away. They didn't want to hang out with me anymore. And looking back, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to hang out with me either, because almost every time we got together to talk, I wanted to talk about this bitterness and anger. Or no, I would express this bitterness and anger toward my situation and what was going on. Well, who wants to listen to that? I certainly don't. But I want to talk about it. And so that's why I think I'm uniquely qualified. Let me tell you a story. There was a lady I knew several years ago who told me about her sister that had gotten angry at her brother. And for the next year or so, she would not show up at any family events or any event really if she thought he was going to be there. She wouldn't call him on his birthday. She had nothing to do with her brother. She was so mad at him. Christmas, Susie and her brother were there talking, and he was asking about their sister. And she's like, well, she's not coming. Well, why is she not coming? It's Christmas. I mean, well, what's she doing? And she's like, you don't know? He said, I don't know what. So Susie goes on and tells him that, well, she's mad at you. When did she get mad at me? Just over a year ago. She's been mad at me for over a year. This woman had harbored this bitterness and anger in her heart for over a year, thinking, as I thought at the time, if I talk about what this person did and why they made me mad, it's going to hurt them. If I lash out at this person when I have an opportunity, it's going to hurt them. If I'm cold toward this person, it's going to hurt them. If I ignore this person, it's going to hurt them. It doesn't. It doesn't. It hurts you. It almost destroyed me. It did destroy parts of my life. The old saying is that anger or bitterness, I think the words are synonymous with each other, bitterness, anger, resentment. Those are the only poisons that destroy the vessel in which they're held, which is the point of that story. Your bitterness and anger, if you're dealing with it, hurts you more than it hurts the person you're bitter and angry at. Now, how do you deal with people who are bitter and angry? You set boundaries. And it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to set boundaries. And by setting boundaries, I mean, if every time you get around this person, it's just toxic and it's just bitterness and angry, begin limiting your time with that person. Say, hey, look, I'm only going to stay 30 minutes. And then leave. Stick to your boundaries. Or if they start having that conversation, you can try to redirect it. And if that doesn't work, leave the conversation. If it gets to the point that none of that's working for you, set a harder boundary and say, I'm just not going to hang out with you. And if they ask why, be honest with them. So look, I don't want this negative in my life. And I wish if I can help you to get it out of yours, I'd be glad to. But I just can't be around it. So how do you get bitterness and angry out of there? Well, I can tell you how I did it. I started looking up, just looking up how to deal with bitterness and anger. That was one thing I started looking up. Another thing is when things come up that, and I hate this word, that triggered that anger or that bitterness, take a breath, walk away for a little bit, rethink it, remind myself of who's going to get hurt here, me. It's being self-destructive behavior, not them, and I need to let it go. And oftentimes people say, well, I'm not going to let it go till they apologize. Well, if they don't know they hurt you, as in the case of Susie's brother, he's never going to apologize. He doesn't even know what to apologize for. If they do know they hurt you and they were going to apologize, they would have already apologized. Okay? Some people just don't apologize. They just don't do it. And then oftentimes they just don't know they hurt you. So if that's your excuse to hold on to it, you're lying to yourself. So you've got to learn to let this go. I'm not saying let them back into your life with all. No, you can set boundaries too around the person who hurt you, but you have to process that bitterness and anger. You've got to get to the point where I'm letting it go, and then replace it. Start replacing it with more joyful things. The stuff you watch on TV. Quit watching. If you had a jilted marriage, quit watching. TV shows about jilted marriages. So watching something else. It's a little bit better for you. Start reading. Even if it's, a fiction novel, but start putting something good into your head, something to think about. I often turn to the scriptures, and I read there. And then I look up what people say about it. But I'm only looking for the good things. I'm not there looking for, bad, evil, horrible things. I'm trying to replace these things in my head. So I'm starving the bitterness and anger, and I'm feeding that divine true self that says, look, you don't have to live like that. There's a better way. And you don't have to live like that either. All right, well, go get you some tea. I'm going to get a couple more of these videos filmed. And if you like it, go ahead and share it. Leave me a comment if you got any questions. If you've dealt with bitterness and angriness, I don't want you to give any details, but if you can just say maybe a couple bullet points of what you did to deal with it and to process it. Goodbye, my friends.